Not only that, but it's, I've lost my train of thought, that's a little bit. It's, so anyway, this is where God's going to act in the redemption of his people. So we're going to continue on with verse 7. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. That same night they are to eat the meat roasted over the fire along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. Do not eat the meat raw or cooked in water, but roast it over fire, head, legs, and inner parts. Do not leave any of it until morning. If some is left till morning, you must burn it. And this is how you are to eat it: with your cloak tucked into your belt, sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. On that same night I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn, both men and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. This is a day you are to commemorate. For the generations to come, you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days you are to eat bread without yeast. On the first day, remove yeast from your houses. For whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day to the seventh must be cut off from Israel. On the first day, hold a sacred assembly, and another one on the seventh day. Do not work at all on these days except to prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. Celebrate the feast of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought you and your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. In the first month you were to eat bread made without yeast, from the evening of the 14th day until the 21st day. For the 7 days no yeast is to be found in your houses, and whoever eats anything with yeast in it must be cut off from your community of Israel, whether he is alien or native born. Within Judaism, and I've spent a lot of time in our local synagogue and learning with a local rabbi, some of the rabbinical students. One of my friends, Rabbi Bernstein, she's getting ready to graduate Jewish seminary, and she gave her senior sermon last Monday, and I called her and I said, "Okay, your turn to pray for me." I'm giving mine tonight, and so hopefully she's up in New York saying some prayers for me. But within Judaism, there is a teaching that everybody, each person, is to see themselves as personally leaving Egypt. That means that there's places of narrowness in your life, whether they're work, relationships, whatever. Those things that are keeping you bound in bondage and keeping you away from God, you are to leave those things personally every day, every moment of every day. You're not supposed to stay there. You can't walk into the promises of God until you're willing to leave your Egypt. It says that the blood was going to be a sign for the for God, for the destroyer, the angel of death. But it says that God's people were spared a judgment which came upon the land of Egypt. And I love how this book puts it. They were spared the death of the firstborn only through the death of a substitute. A lamb was to be slain, its blood sprinkled on the door of their home. And this is something that we don't think about. We think, well, okay, so when the death angel came by and he saw that blood on the door, he just passed by. But death had to visit every home in Egypt. And it was either the death of the firstborn child, or it was the death of the substitute, that lamb. So death, no matter what it was, it had to come to every home. Now, Moses goes on and he tells the people, you're to eat this fully clothed with your staff in your hand. And you're sitting there and you're probably got the same questions I did. Why do you have to eat clothed? I mean, Well, it says at midnight that night he's going to come. And they have to eat it in haste. They have to be ready to leave Egypt. Because just like when Christ comes to his second coming, we too are going to have to be ready So, I think James puts it, we need to be prepared. We may not be ready, but we need to be prepared. So that's what God was saying to them. You need to be prepared. Because I'm going to call you out of Egypt at a moment's notice. You don't have time to fool around and not do anything. You have to be ready. And so, it didn't say that he called them out of Egypt right then. You notice that. They were prepared. And your journey through Egypt may be a long one. These people were enslaved for hundreds of years. Matter of fact, the only reason they were in slavery, and I thought this was ironic, was that Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery. And the caravan took him to Egypt, and he rose to power in Egypt. And then, once he died, and the generations that knew Joseph died, nobody knew of him. And Pharaoh was terrified of Israel. Just like today, they were a major world power. And we see today, in today's world, everybody is scared of Israel. And that's what they were. He was terrified. So the only way he could control his fear of Israel was to put these people in bondage. Just like the Palestinians are trying to do today. They're trying to put Israel back into bondage. So, Passover has become this festival of celebration. My friend Sam puts it this way. He's a rabbi down in Charlotte. He says, they tried to kill us, let's eat. And that's really the ordinance of most Jewish holidays, is that, these people tried to kill the Jews, but they didn't, so we're going to have a party. And I think that we need to celebrate more often. How often do we really celebrate our salvation in Christ? I mean, we come to church on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, and Wednesdays, but how often do we really celebrate our salvation? And a lot of times we don't, and we need to do that. We need to give thanks daily, because God has brought us out of a land of slavery and sin, and He's brought us into His wonderful plan and His promises, and we don't acknowledge it as much as we should. And yet the Jewish people, they have a celebration once a year to remember that. And I've been to a Passover. It's a lot of fun. It's a 4-hour meal. And y'all that know me, I ain't missing any meals. So a 4-hour meal, let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. So I think the next one we all just need to pack up our car and go. But like I said, every day we're faced with our own Egypt, and it can